The Terminator on the Sega Genesis is really one of those movie license games that sticks out in my mind as meh. It's certainly not a bad game, but at the same time it's certainly not a very good one. I'll get into why that is in a moment, but first I'll start off with some positives. First of all, the game's overall presentation, I've got to say, isn't too bad. They're not the best visuals on the Genesis, even for the time, but they look okay, and they stay true to the movie with their dark colours and gritty environments. The cutscenes before each level are also a very nice addition. Sound design is quite solid also. The music tracks may come off as annoying at first, but after a couple of listens I found them to be pretty damn good, and they fit the theme of the levels brilliantly. And I gotta say, the sound effects really help in making destroying Terminators so satisfying. Unfortunately, that's pretty much it in terms of praises from me, so I think I'll start getting into the problems I have with this game. The first problem I have with this game is its length. There are only 4 short levels, and with some skill the entire game can be beaten in under 15 minutes. For a Sega Genesis game, I find this to be unacceptable. Hell, for an NES game this would be unacceptable. The game tries to make up for this by basing the levels off the most signature events in the movie, like the Tech Noir shootout, the Terminator's rampage through the police station, and the final battle at the Cyberdyne factory. But even so, the game could have had at least 6 stages if they included a couple of driving levels based off the 2 car chases from the film. When it comes to combat, using weapons in this game is a pretty frustrating experience. When you start off in the first level, you're armed with grenades, which work well enough for the enemies in the open outdoor areas, but trying to take out an entire group of Terminators while in the underground portions of the level can be quite difficult, since it can take a couple of hits just to get rid of a single Terminator. A good way to kill these guys off faster is to get up to them as close as possible and try a ducking and throwing tactic. But even when trying this, you're still at risk from taking damage from either another group of Terminators coming up from behind you, or from your target walking into you. Although having said this isn't a problem at all if you're playing on easy, since you get a machine gun just as you enter the underground areas. On any higher difficulty level, you're required to fight your way to get this weapon, which in itself is a challenge because of the problems I just mentioned. Once you get the machine gun, the level is a breeze, but the fact that you can't turn or run while shooting is a bit of an annoyance. An annoyance that is also apparent with the shotgun Kyle Reese uses in the other 3 stages, except here there's a slight delay from him shooting as he goes into this little animation of him getting the gun out of his coat. So if you don't want to risk getting shot as much from enemies, I suggest ducking and shooting at all times since there's no stupid animation to slow you down. The jumping in this game is quite stiff and you don't have as much control of it as you would like. You can't steer yourself while in mid-air, and no matter how hard or light you press the button, you always jump the same height and distance. This is a real problem during the final battle at Cyberdyne, because even if you reduce the Terminator to nothing but a crawler, it is virtually impossible to jump over him. If you jump too early, you fall into him and take damage, and if you take off too late, you get hit as soon as you take off. The only way to safely jump over him is by going down these stairs. The Terminator is constantly following you, and if you make the mistake of taking the wrong set of stairs and walk into a dead end, the game is pretty much over for you, because there's no way in hell you'll be able to escape. Which brings me to my next point, and the main problem which almost kills this game for me. You don't get any kind of second chance when you die, as there are no extra lives or continues whatsoever. Die once, and the game is over. Now, I like a challenge in my games as much as the next person, but when it's based around no second chances in a game where a good number of the deaths are caused by really cheap moments, that's enough to piss a few people off. It's so aggravating for me that I have to constantly start from the beginning of the game because I died from getting ganged up on by Terminators, getting killed by some overpowered enemy, or making the simple mistake of taking the wrong flight of stairs. In addition to the game's somewhat unfair challenge, some of the level objectives aren't that self-explanatory at times. In the first level, there's a turret that's guarding the end of the stage. If you try to go for it, you die. At first I had absolutely no idea what the problem was. I thought maybe I just took a wrong route or there was some sort of control panel I had to toy with to deactivate the thing, but I searched the entirety of the level and I couldn't find anything. It turns out you're supposed to plant a bomb near these pipes. You do that and the turret deactivates, enabling you to reach the end of the stage as long as you make it within the time limit. Now seriously, how would anyone be able to figure that out on their own? When fighting the Terminator in Tech Noir, your goal is to just rescue Sarah Connor, but you can't reach her without shooting him down a number of times. When he's flashing, you can pass by him safely. Why Kyle couldn't just pass him after the last 2 times I shot him down is anyone's guess. In conclusion, with all the issues I've mentioned, would I say that the Terminator is a game that I wouldn't really recommend to anyone? No. As I said, the game's not bad, it has some fun factor to it. It just has a lot of problems which ruin it for me personally. If you like what you've seen in this video, I say give it a try. You may like it, you may not like it. But when it comes to movie-based titles on the Genesis, I can name a ton of games I would rather recommend to you guys. So overall, I give the Terminator for the Sega Genesis a 5.5 out of 10. And until we meet again, this is Sonic94 saying good night, goodbye, and I'll be back. I guess. Maybe. Ah, forget it.